Welcome into the Inside Scoop. Today's Sunday, January 5th, and we are live from a rainy and very cold Nashville, Tennessee. I hope your first weekend of the new year was a good one. We got some recruiting to talk about today. We got a lot of recruiting to talk about today. Actually, things just keep getting crazier and crazier with Oregon recruiting. We'll talk to Justin Hopkins of Scoop Duck about the most recent five-star defection from Eugene. What's going on? We're also going to talk some Georgia today. They got some reloading to do, especially on offense. So we got Rusty Mansell on this show. Then we're going to talk some Tennessee recruiting. Mike Mathews is back in the fold, but how will Tennessee build that wide receiver room around him? Austin Price from VolQuest joins the show as well. And we're also going to review the states of Florida and Georgia to find out who won the state. Interesting stuff there. We got a big show, so let's get to it. Let's talk a little Georgia recruiting. The Bulldogs, they got knocked out of the playoffs, so their offseason is here, and they're looking to reload some talent on that roster. We got Rusty Mansell with Dogs HQ on this video. We're going to find out who the impact freshman could be from this 2025 class. Also get a little transfer portal update as well. So, Dog fans, before we get going, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We love talking UGA recruiting on this channel, so jump on board and hit subscribe. All right. Let's bring in Rusty Mansell from Dogs HQ. Now, Rusty, we're going to talk transfer portal here in a minute, but let's go back to this 2025 class. UGA currently in third. There's a little bit left to go till February. I don't know how much is really left to go in the 25 class, but who do you think could be an instant impact player from the signing class?
Well, if you take away quarterback, which is obviously the position everybody in the country watches all the way there, every level, I think Elijah Griffin's the safest bet in the entire country. I think Elijah Griffin, a lot of people think he is the number one player in America. If it's not, the five-star did nothing to kind of downgrade that at the Under Armour practices. Charles Power just raved about him. And I'll say this, he's the best defensive line prospect since Derek Brown in that 2016 class. Georgia needs help on the defensive line, and they had to have this guy, and Kirby Smart did a great job recruiting him. Trey Scott, over almost 5 years. They offered him in the 8th grade. I think Elijah Griffin's a guy immediately that can help. You know, it's hard to start as a true freshman, but this guy's going to be playing real minutes. But I think Georgia fans, the talk, the discussion, everything has been at wide receiver. I don't think it's any secret to anyone. They've got to upgrade that room. They've got to get some playmakers in there, and they went after 5 wide receivers in the 2025 class. They landed 5 wide receivers, signing 5 wide receivers, which I wasn't sure that you would ever see anything like that. But you got to look at Talon Taylor, the 5-star out of Illinois. This guy he's done nothing but make plays. Georgia did a great job recruiting him. Brian McClendon, an early offer before he left to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was a big deal. Then James Coley comes in and takes that recruitment over, keeps the momentum, and ultimately this and others at the end. This is a guy that's got to play. C.J. Wiley's another one that Georgia needs to play immediately. And listen, Josh, he only had a couple of days of practice during the bowl practice. I think he got one practice in full pads. He came right off the state championship game. 48 hours later, he was in Athens running around, doing acclimation periods, and then got to the pads, I think, one day. And he did nothing to disappoint. It's initial, but he's kind of who they think he is. This is a young man that James Coley stayed on the entire time. And once he opened that thing up, I think Georgia was probably ultimately going to be the destination out of Milton High School. And he's a playmaker. Then you start looking at Elias Williams, a 6'7", 240-pound tight end out of Camden County, Kingsland, Georgia. Josh, there was only one of those in the country that looked like this in this particular class, this tight end, H wide receiver. This guy, you know what's crazy? This guy's been playing the wing T. He comes in his senior year and catches like 50 passes in a new offense. He is so untapped, but I'll tell you this, nobody's going to walk into college as a true freshman with his frame. And the way Georgia has used their tight ends, I don't think it's done anything to disappoint. And I would expect him to be a guy that's going to play pretty quickly in Athens.
Yeah, I'm probably most excited about him in this class, but I'm kind of tempering expectations because I know you've been on this channel before. You've explained that he's in this wing T offense, and you know, I'm sure they're going to find a way to get him on the field this first year. But after this, he's going to be a dominant presence in this offense at some point. Whether it's first year or not, we don't know. Now, let's talk a little transfer portal because we know that the Dogs are active there, and we can't talk instant impact players without talking transfer portal. So besides wide receiver, what else would you say is a major need for Georgia right now?
Well, as we're taping this right now, Anthony Evans just officially announced he's going in the portal at wide receiver. So you look at Georgia and you look at the Branch brothers and you start thinking about how bad they're going to need a slot receiver. And this is why they have recruited Zachariah Branch and his brother to be instant playmakers. Did Georgia get them or not? We don't know at this time, but I think that's a heavy target for Georgia. I think safety is the position that I don't think people really pay enough attention to outside the Georgia bubble. They need help. They're likely going to lose Malachi Starks. They're losing Dan Jackson. They got KJ Bolden. They hit on him. They've got to have others, and they've got to have depth that can play there immediately. Adrian Maddox in the portal out of UAB. He's a young man that went to high school in Georgia, has an interesting path. I think he went to Temple, UAB, and went from Alabama State to Temple to UAB. Now likely could end up at Georgia. I think that's where he's ultimately going to end up. They're recruiting others there as well. Jaden Harris, this is a guy out of Miami that's from the Atlanta area. He played high school football for former Georgia great Robert Edwards at Riverwood High School. This is a kid that kind of took off late in the process, and Miami signed him late. So he's went into the portal. That's another name I would watch. But Noah Thomas, the 6'6" wide receiver out of Texas A&M. He was on campus this weekend. It was kind of quiet until this morning. That visit got out. Georgia got the first crack at him. James Coley coached him as a freshman there at Texas A&M. So there's some connections there. Georgia needs an X receiver really, really bad. With the loss of Anthony Evans now looking like that's going to follow through, that X position is going to be really, really crucial. That slot position is going to be really, really crucial for Georgia as well going forward. They got some young guys, and they've got some very talented young guys. I think this freshman class is one that you look back on in a couple of years and go, all those guys can help Georgia. But they've also got to have a mixture of guys that can play right now. Georgia's schedule does not let up an ounce next year. Just because you got Texas, Alabama, and Ole Miss and those guys at home doesn't make it that much easier. So they got to have guys that can play right now at Georgia.
Yeah. Now, Zachariah Branch and his brother, they just seem like a perfect fit because they're coming in at the two biggest positions of need for Georgia right now. So did the Branch brothers, have they visited yet?
Yes, they visited first. I think Georgia got the first visit. Then I think Arizona State got a visit. Then Miami got a visit. From everything I have been told, they're not visiting anywhere else this weekend. They very likely could be close to a decision. So I know everybody at Georgia, I know all the fans are watching this decision. I know Tennessee and a couple of other schools, I think, tried to get in late here.
Texas is another one that tried to get in late.
Texas is another school tried to get in late. So I think the opportunity, I don't know what else you could say at Georgia. They need help at both of those positions. If it's that important, and it should be, for those two brothers to go play on the field together, I don't know that I see a better fit, to be honest, with Georgia.
Georgia fans, talk to Rusty and I. I know you guys see there's a need for playmakers. Who do you think is going to make an impact on the field in 2025 from the 2025 class? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk a little Oregon Ducks recruiting. We thought we saw the craziest Oregon recruiting development already happen when Dallas Wilson signed and then 10 days later asked out of his letter of intent. But then there was the situation with Jaron Key Sagapulitelli, and he was the number 50 overall recruit. He was a quarterback, committed to Cal for a while, had a really quiet commitment to Cal for a while, as I said, but then the rumors started swirling. Maybe he's going to flip to Oregon. Georgia got involved a little bit, but really it was just Oregon. Flipped his commitment from Cal to Oregon on the early signing day, December 4th. After signing, he enrolled, he practiced. After practicing, he even watched Oregon in the playoffs. Then he asked for his walking papers. One of the strangest situations I've seen in a while. We're going to break it all down. We're also going to talk about who is going to be an instant impact player for the Ducks in 2025 out of this recruiting class. We're going to talk with Justin Hopkins of Scoop Duck. But first, Oregon fans, do me a favor. Smash that subscribe button for me real quick. All right. Let's bring in Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck. Justin, is this situation on its face as crazy as I just described, or am I missing something here?
Well, it's one of those things you think back maybe 2, 3, 4 years, and this story would have been absolutely wild now. But in today's transfer portal days, is it really all that wild? So, it's still a pretty interesting story on the surface. Obviously, really even more so because he showed up and practiced with the team, was doing Rose Bowl practices with the team, and then dipped. So yeah, pretty crazy story. I don't think there's a lot to it. There's no ill will. I just think maybe the expectation playing earlier than the play earlier than they wanted to probably wasn't there at Oregon. Obviously, they've got Dante Moore, they've got Novosad, they've got Luke Moga, Achilles Smith also came in and enrolled. So you've got healthy competition at Oregon, and I think he came in and saw that and decided maybe it wasn't for him. So you go to a school like Cal where you potentially could end up now, and there's a pretty clear path to being the starter there. So if that's what matters most to Jaron, then I don't think anybody wishes him badly. Like, that seems to be a better fit. Go do your thing, man.
So is that what happened? Jaron came in, he took a look under the hood and just thought like, hey, they're too good. Like, I might not see the field early. But did he not understand that when he was taking visits and mulling it all over right before early signing day?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting recruitment, to say the least, because in those days leading up to when he flipped to Oregon, Cal and Oregon had limited to no contact with him. He basically went radio silent on both schools while both were like maybe assuming the other was getting him. And so, it was just kind of an interesting recruiting all the way. So maybe, that particular factor wasn't weighed in enough. I don't know. I don't know how you missed knowing that Dante Moore was on the roster at Oregon. Of course, Dante Moore was a starter at UCLA, transferred in. He's believed to be the heir apparent now with Dylan Gabriel done at Oregon. So, I don't know if they just missed that fact alone or what the case was, but it certainly seems to be one of the bigger points is that he came in and practiced for that week and kind of went, oh, these guys are pretty good. They might, I might have to sit behind them. And that seems to be the bulk of the story. And it's funny because leading up to, this happening in that week of practices, we heard several of the Oregon players talking with media about Dante Moore and he throws the ball and how much he's developed this year. So that seems to be the biggest part of the story. But, again, nobody at Oregon poorly. Good luck to you, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Oregon fans, let us know, what was your favorite moment in the Sagapolu-Telly era? Put it in the comments section below. But seriously, Justin, a lot of talent is graduating. A lot of talent is coming in. Who are some of the names, not just on offense, not just at wide receiver or running back, but who are some of the names that you think are going to make an early impact at Oregon from the signing class? Inside Scoop listeners, it's playoff season. That means we're talking Prize Picks, and I love Prize Picks. So we got the NFL playoffs going, we got the college football playoffs going, and it's a great time to up your Prize Picks game. This weekend, I played Quinn Ewers and Sam Levitt passing yards on the more than and hit. I love it. It's just that easy. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your football account. Prize Picks is the most fun way to make a little money during the football season. Here's what we're going to do. Go to prizepicks.com/inside scoop, and you're going to use promo code inside scoop to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineup. So all you got to do is play that $5. Whether you win or lose, you're going to have $50 in your account when it's done. So tell me, who are we rolling with the playoffs coming up? Give me your winners. Give me your can't miss picks in the comment section below. Remember, Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if I don't lead this off with the Corian Moore, that the list is invalid. So, after, what we saw from his season and then obviously highlighting at the All-Star game, he's in Eugene now, has arrived following that All-American performance there. And so, yeah, you got to start the list with Corian Moore. Somebody's got to go and catch some of those balls that Tez Johnson's leaving behind. There remains to be some, whether Evan Stewart will return to Oregon or not, somebody's going to have to pick up some balls there. I think Corian Moore is the guy, but you're going to have to go look at the defensive back group that Oregon signed, and they signed those guys for a reason. You talk about Dorian Brew and Naeem Offord, and man, Oregon's going to need all those guys to come in and play right away. They're basically graduating all of the back end of their defense. So, of course, the Ducks have gone into the transfer portal a little bit as well to supplement. But I think you're looking at those young guns coming in and playing a lot of snaps in the secondary. Outside of that, Oregon has become somewhat similar to Georgia and to what we've known Alabama to be, which is not that many freshmen come in and make a big impact, right? Those guys come in and they develop for a year, and then in 2 or 3 years, they're, household names across the country. And that's what national championships look like. And I won't say that Oregon's there yet because that wouldn't be fair, obviously getting bounced by Ohio State here in the Rose Bowl. But they have built a roster in that fashion where, this year we saw very few true freshmen really make much of an impact. And even though Oregon signed a highly ranked class, I think once again, you'll say, hey, these guys will come in and provide depth and learn this first year and be ready to go in 2 or 3 years. But I do highlight DeCorian Moore in the back end of that secondary because those guys are all going to play.
Yeah, and after what DeCorian Moore did at the Under Armour game, he shows whether it's going to be kickoff return, punt return, wide receiver, DeCorian Moore somehow, some way is going to make an impact as soon as he steps on campus at Oregon. So Duck fans, talk to Justin and I. Who's your favorite player in this 2025 cycle? Let us know who you think is going to make an instant impact in Eugene. Let's talk a little Tennessee recruiting. Now that the Mike Mathews saga has resolved itself, we want to talk about that wide receiver position and where Tennessee's going to get the production from moving forward. I got Austin Price from VolQuest on this one. We're going to go behind the scenes of 2025 recruiting. But first, Tennessee fans, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button for me. We're here talking Tennessee recruiting all year long, and we want you to be a part of it. Hit subscribe for me. All right, let's bring in Austin Price from VolQuest. Now, Austin, Mike Mathews is staying. It took a week. That is resolved. Now we move forward. Where do you think the production's going to come from at the wide receiver position for Tennessee in the 2025 year?
Well, it starts with Mike. I mean, he's going to have more opportunities in 2025. Chris Brazel will continue to be a playmaker for this team. Braylon Staley will emerge. He played over 50 snaps in the Ohio State game. But I would expect him to get more run, much more run in 2025, probably from the slot position. And so then it boils down to what true freshmen can make an impact, Josh. And then who else do they add? Because I would say they'll at least add 1 or 2 more. They lost too many bodies to not add back a body or 2 at the receiver position.
Right. So let's talk about this 2025 class finishing 10th. They signed a bunch of wide receivers in this one. Is there anybody that you're giving the nod to that you think could come in and make an impact as a true freshman?
Well, it'd be Travis Smith. He's long, he's explosive, he's got a huge frame, high catch radius, and I like his game a lot. I think sneaky is Joakim Dodson. Now, the Baylor product is not going to be here till the summertime.
Right.
Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson will be here for spring practice, so that gives them a little bit of a leg up. But that's not always an end-all, be-all when it comes to playing early. So, Tennessee's going to have to lean on some of these true freshmen to play. That's just facts. And we'll see who else they add out of the portal and go from there. But they ultimately need Mike Mathews, to get back to your original question, to be the guy that ascends and takes much more, playmaking ability into 2025.
Yeah, the expectations on Mike Mathews have definitely been ratcheted up after the last couple of days, and now that he's returning. You look at the top of the commitment list, or I should say signing list now, and you got David Sanders, you got Elijah Campbell, you got Marion Dye. What other positions do you think we could see some of these 2025 prospects making an early impact next year?
Well, we just hit kind of on the nail on the head. I think at receiver they're going to have to, just because of what they're replacing and people who left the program. But I mean, I love Isaiah Campbell. I like Marion Dye, and the way that Rodney Garner rotates his defensive linemen, that would tell you they'll have a real shot to play early, because that's what Coach Garner does. And from all indications, at least through that week of bowl practice, as they geared up for the CFP, those guys flashed. They showed kind of why they were what they were ranked, right? And so like the staff's feeling really good about them. They loved what they saw out of Travis Smith. I think they got to have some stuff out of a guy like Jaden Harmon or Jaden Perlotti at the linebacker spot. I think that's paramount. And then DeJuan Morris, the running back from Oakland, or Justin Baker, the running back from down in the state of Georgia. It would be 2 spots also that I think Tennessee needs to have a young player or 2 step up. Outside of course, David Sanders, who if not starting day one, I'll be shocked.
That's going to be a big one. I'm really excited to see this 2025 class. So just tying up some loose ends. The portal is winding down, but it's also, there's still many talented players there. How many more do you think we could see Tennessee land from the portal before it's all said and done?
I think it's possible for them to add 3 to 4 more, depending on who's available. Again, you got to like what's in there before you want to go all in on them. And a lot of these portal kids are commanding top dollar. So if you're not in love with them, giving them top dollar doesn't make much sense. So, I think for Tennessee, they'd love to, continue to add pieces, especially at receiver, maybe a running back, just because right now they kind of go into next year with 4 scholarship backs on the roster after they've had a couple of people leave with, Dylan Sampson going off to the NFL. And then, you look around and you've got a couple more transfer out, like Cam Seldon and Khalifa Keith. So, probably would like to add a body at running back. And then maybe defensive line. I'm not sure they go and do anything at safety at this point. But, again, time will tell. It depends on who's available and who's interested.
All right, Tennessee fans, when we're sitting back in this position a year from now, who do you think we'll be looking back on from this 25 class and saying, wow, he was the most impactful signing? Let us know. Comment section below. Where did the best players in the state of Florida sign from the 2025 class? That's what we're going to cover in this video. Florida, California, Texas, those are kind of the hotbeds of recruiting. So in this video, we're going to find out where the best players in the state of Florida went. But start at number 1, quarterback DJ Pickett. He signed with LSU, the number 2 corner, number 10 overall. He's from Zephyr Hills, Florida. How did he get out of the state? I credit Corey Raymond, LSU DB coach, on this one. Now, Corey Raymond was at the University of Florida prior to this season. He left. He went back home to LSU. And, if Corey Raymond hadn't made that move, I think he's at UF, but now he's at LSU. It was a really tough hold for LSU. Pickett committed early. Miami and UF were really the main players that were trying to flip him. And then after that Bryce Underwood flip, all eyes were on DJ Pickett. After losing to Corian Moore, after losing Bryce Underwood, LSU was able to sign DJ Pickett, a huge get for the Tigers. At number 2, wide receiver Dallas Wilson. He signed with UF, but he also signed with Oregon. What, Josh? How did he sign with Oregon and UF? Well, he signed with Oregon in the early period on December 4th. By December 23rd, he asked out of his papers with the Ducks, staying in the state of Florida. Now, Dallas Wilson is from Tampa, but he was committed to Oregon for 2 years. Then he signs with Oregon only to ask out before he even enrolls. So the number 2 wide receiver, number 19 overall, one of the wildest recruitments of the Florida recruits that we saw in the 2025 class, Dallas Wilson. He's heading to Gainesville. At number 3, we got Solomon Thomas. He signed with LSU. He was all FSU. That's until Alex Atkins got fired. Now, Solomon Thomas from the Jacksonville area, committed to FSU early. He was the last remaining 5-star on that commit list, only for him to flip just days before signing day. And Solomon Thomas sounded like he really wanted to play for FSU, but there was just too much uncertainty. Number 32 prospect overall signs with LSU. At number 4, another one leaving the state of Florida. This time, it's wide receiver Jamie French. He signed with Texas. Now, his recruitment started with a commitment to Alabama. He decommitted in the wake of Nick Saban retiring. UF, Miami, they were the main players in this one, but a summer trip to Austin changed everything. Starts trending to the Longhorns and makes his commitment by the end of summer. Now, UF did make a late push. They got him on campus twice there at the end. A lot of Gator fans were getting optimistic, but in the end, Jamie French is a Longhorn. Moving on to number 5, Vernell Brown, wide receiver from the state of Florida. Number 9 ranked wideout in the country, number 45 overall. He's a UF legacy. He ends up signing with UF. Now, he committed to UF when things weren't going so well with the program, but in the end, he turns out to be one of the bell cows of the class, did a lot of recruiting for the Gators down the stretch, and Vernell Brown is a Gator. Number 6, edge Javian Hilson. He signed with Missouri. Yes, Javian Hilson, who was originally committed to Alabama, decommitted after Nick Saban retired, commits to FSU, watches 2 of the Knowles games, says, I'm out of here, decommits. Then it was really trending in Texas's direction. UF was also a factor late. But in the end, Missouri gets him on the last visit, his only visit to Missouri, and he signs with the Tigers. Number 7, safety Hilton Stubbs signs with Miami. Now, he attends the same high school in Jacksonville as Jamie French. Number 4, safety in America. Now, he committed to USC early. That one didn't stick. Makes another commitment to the Miami Hurricanes. Ends up being a late flip to the Florida Gators. Another one heading to Gainesville. At number 8, we got Ivan Taylor. He signed with Alabama. The number 7 ranked safety in America from West Orange High School there in Winter Gardens, Florida. Originally committed to Notre Dame. Flipped that commitment to Michigan. A huge get for the Wolverines in July. But you know who never gave up on him? Alabama. After getting him on campus a couple times during the season, things start trending in the Tide's direction, and ultimately he flips and signs with Alabama. At number 9, Grayson Littleton. He signs with Texas. Another prospect from the city of Tampa. Number 10 ranked corner in America, 67 overall, so top 100 prospect. Now he commits early to Clemson in June. He decommits on November 1st. Michigan pushes, FSU pushes, but in the end, he's a Texas Longhorn. At number 10, we got corner Ben Hanks. He's from Booker T. Washington High School down there in Miami. He's a UF legacy, commits to the Gators early. Things were shaky early on. There's some optimism for the Canes, but UF turns it around at the end of the season and ends up signing Ben Hanks, keeping him away from the rival Miami Hurricanes. So that's where the top 10 prospects in the state of Florida signed. Overall, Florida produced 49 blue chip prospects in the 2025 cycle. All 49 are now signed with a program, and of those prospects, 24 decided to stay in the Sunshine State. You can tell that all 3 of the teams were down some. Well, Miami had a great year, but they didn't really finish on a high note. We didn't see Miami recruiting surge like we have kind of at the end of the last 2 cycles. So 24 decided to stay in state of the 49. Florida signs the most in state. They land 15. So 15 of those prospects signed with Florida. Miami inked 8, while Florida State landed 5. And UCF, they also landed a Florida 4-star as well. So tell me in the comment section below, who was your favorite recruit from the state of Florida in this cycle? Let me know, comment section below. Where did the best players in the state of Georgia sign? That's what we're going to cover in this video. We've already done Florida. Now it's time to look at the state of Georgia. And let's get into it. At number 1, defensive lineman Elijah Griffin from Savannah Prep signs with the Dogs. Number 1 defensive lineman. Number 5 overall. He goes 6'4", 300 pounds. Just one of the most dynamic defensive linemen in this class, and he's staying home to play for the Dogs. At number 2, Isaiah Gibson. The number 1 edge in America, signs with Georgia. Now, he did make a quick commitment to USC in March. Georgia ends up landing him when he makes that second commitment. Michigan, they made a late push. I mean, some Michigan fans took a tweet from Isaiah Gibson to mean he's coming, but in the end, it's Georgia, the number 8 overall prospect, all Dogs since he committed on June 24th. At number 3, maybe one of the biggest surprises in the country, Justice Terry to Texas. The number 2 defensive lineman, number 9 overall. He was an early commitment for Georgia, flips his commitment to USC, and then decommits. And in the end, everybody thought he was going to end up at Georgia, well, except for a few people. And in the end, it's Texas. 6'4", almost 300 pounds, a major disruptor in the middle, and he's going to be a Longhorn. At number 4, we got linebacker Zayden Walker, the number 1 linebacker in America from Ellaville, Georgia. 6'2", 225, prototypical NFL frame. He commits to the Dogs on June 5th, and that was really the end of his recruitment. At number 5, Elias Williams, one of the most intriguing prospects on this list, signs with Georgia. Number 1 tight end, number 36 overall, just out of 5-star range. But the reason he's so intriguing is because of his size. Massive tight end that goes 6'7", 245 pounds. And, you know, he had offers from everybody, as you can imagine. But in April, at the end of April, he said, I'm done with recruiting. I'm sticking with Georgia. And that was the end of it. We didn't hear from Elias Williams. He didn't take a visit. It was over. Dogs got a good one here. Number 6, quarterback Julian Lewis signed with Colorado. The former USC commitment is the number 6 ranked quarterback, number 39 overall from Carrollton, Georgia. The first commitment in that USC Trojan class. He was very patient as he waited more than 6 months for another commitment. But then in November, he decommitted. It was a crazy day. He announced his decommitment about an hour before Houston Longstreet announced he was flipping from A&M to the Trojans. So in the end, Julian Lewis finds a great fit with Colorado. He's going to come in, potentially start, or at least compete for a starting job in his first year out in Boulder. So we'll see how Julian Lewis does with Coach Prime at number 7. Interior offensive lineman Josh Petty. He signs with Georgia Tech, the number 3 interior offensive lineman in the country. This was a big battle originally between FSU, Georgia Tech, but then after Ohio State loses out on David Sanders, they made a run at Josh Petty, but Tech's able to hold on to the number 7 prospect in the state of Georgia. At number 8, we got safety Tay Harris. This is another win for Georgia Tech. Now, this one almost came full circle. He made an early commitment to Georgia. Then he commits to Clemson before the season starts. Flipped to Georgia Tech late in November. Thought maybe he would flip back to Georgia, but he stays in the state somewhere, and it's going to be at Georgia Tech. At number 9, we got Travis Smith to Tennessee. Number 10 ranked wide receiver in America, number 71 overall from the Atlanta area. Kind of reminds me of that Mike Mathews recruitment from a year before. Hopefully things pan out better than it did for Mike Mathews in his freshman year at Tennessee, but Travis Smith is a volunteer. Then at number 10, another surprising recruitment. CJ Wiley made an initial commitment to FSU. He picked FSU over LSU in Georgia. He's from Milton High School. Florida State tried to hold on, but that season they had, that's a tough hold for an out-of-state prospect. And in the end, CJ Wiley flips that commitment from FSU to Georgia. So the state of Georgia produced 54 blue-chip prospects in the 2025 cycle. All 54 are now signed with the college program. Georgia, Texas, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, they each signed 3 or more 4- or 5-star prospects out of the Peach State, but the Bulldogs, they signed a whopping 18, while the Yellow Jackets, they landed 6. So you guys tell me, comment section below, who was your favorite player from the state of Georgia this cycle? Let me know. Comment section below.